Hello everyone, it's Shel from Paper Octio Studio, and today I'm bringing you the Pick a Stick Challenge. It is the fourth Friday of the month, so this is when I put out my video for the month of June. And this is a 10-step challenge where the sticks are picked randomly and you get what you get, you do them in order, and you don't skip anything, and then you've completed the challenge. The first step for this month was to use a vintage element, and I had an envelope full of Happy Mail from a kind of a swap Happy Mail thing from Kimberly Deal in Florida, and she had sent me some collage elements, and there was a few little vintage photos and an old handwritten letter and this little thing that looked like cough medicine from a long time ago, you know, like one of those snake oil things or whatever. All kind of went together, and so I thought I would use those on my page and just kind of let that dictate my art journal page for this month. Kind of making up a story in my head about this love affair between these people, and they're far apart, and they write these letters to each other, and then of course, like all those love stories do, it ends in tragedy when one of them gets tuberculosis and coughs her lungs out and dies, you know, that type of stuff. I love that kind of, you know, romantic, oh, he's pining away for her and they're writing these letters. And back then, that's the only way you had to communicate. Imagine how much easier it is now with our technology, and we can email each other, and we can text, and we can video chat on our phones, and you know, we don't have to go through this sad tragedy. So it's just kind of a commentary, a page of commentary about how much better things are, even though we can continuously complain about how things are not better, but they actually are. The way that we can communicate with people across the world. I have, you know, friends that I've met and people that follow my channel and talk to me on Facebook and stuff that are from other countries. I would never have met these people. No way, no how. So I'm glad that we've progressed, and this page is kind of a commentary on that. Although some of the things that we have progressed to might not be the best. So what I did with all those collage elements that I had was to use a, what did Mike say the other day? Paper scruffer. A paper scruffer. It's like a tool that scratches up paper on the edges and makes it more distressed looking and torn. And so I did that around my elements, and then I used some potting soil colored brown to just kind of go around the edges, make them look like they're dirty and old, and you know, just generally distress them more. I used that ink instead of, like, say for instance, distress ink in vintage photo, which you would think that's what you would use, but since I knew I was going to be adding other wet elements to my page and going over it in a mixed media style, that I didn't want the ink to smear. So that's the reason that I used archival ink instead of vintage photo. The next step, step 2, was to add tape. And so I pulled out a few tapes that I thought went with the theme. One of them is got that old-fashioned airmail looking stripes, like back in the day when you would mail a letter. Maybe not, probably not as old as these, but you know, it gives the idea of a mail. And also I have some tapes that are black with some graphic elements on them to bring a little black into the two corners of the page. This stretches your eye in a diagonal. You know, you're looking from, it makes your eye look from one thing to another in kind of a clockwise motion. Hopefully that's the concept that I'm thinking of. So the next step was to add texture. And so I pull out this stencil that has an old-fashioned clock face on it, because I'm thinking about time. I'm thinking about time passing for these people. You know, if I want to talk to my best friend who's in Oregon, I just text her or I FaceTime her, and I can talk instantly anytime I want. I can communicate. Same thing goes, you know, with my kid who's moved away, and I'm sad, but if I want to talk to him, I can text him. He doesn't always text me back very quickly, but you know what I mean. Instantaneous. if you wanted to talk to your loved one who's, across the world from you back in the day, you had to write a letter and then it had to go on a stagecoach and it had to travel, or maybe it went on a train, or maybe it went on a steamboat. How awful would that be? So it sure is nice that time is not the same as it once was when it comes to communication with your loved ones. So that's the reason that I picked this clock face circle. And I use the golden light molding paste, which dries quickly, and to do the clock face. So it gets bumpy. It's kind of a weird foamy bumpy stuff. So the next thing was to spray something. So I got out some Tattered Angels mists, kind of a rusty colored one, terracotta rust type color, and a mid green. It's actually more like a light green, I'd guess, and then a teal. I didn't want all brown on this, brown and black, brown and black. I wanted to bring in some other colors, but not overwhelmingly so. Just enough so that it felt like there was something else there without like taking over the page, because these vintage pictures, of course, they're black and white, and we've got a little bit of brown. We don't have a lot of color going on here with the collage elements. I didn't want to overwhelm them, but I did want something else on there. So I have this vine colored green. It's kind of a light green tone, and then a teal. And the rust color and the teal color both have a little bit of shimmer to them. The vine colored one is a flat mist. It didn't really matter to me whether they were shimmery or flat. I was just looking for colors. And then I also took the lids off and used the plastic thing to do splattering as well a little bit, just because I like the way that looks. So that brought in some other colors to my layout without being completely overwhelming of the whole thing, just color, color, color instead of the what I was trying to convey. So the next step was to use a sponge, and I did feel like I wanted to add a little bit more subtlety to the color, maybe break up the pattern of the stencil that I used. I think that stencil shape is an arabesque, I think. Not sure, but it reminded me of wallpaper, like I was talking about earlier, the old flocked wallpaper. So that was the reason that I picked it. I was looking for something else, like a kind of a flourish or something, but I couldn't find anything in my stencils that looked like that. So I used white gesso on a sponge to just kind of break up the pattern and to just, I don't know, break up anything that was real linear. With the exception of the letter, it still has lines, but I was trying to break up the lines and have more soft shapes. Step 6 was to skip a step or add another of your choice, and I just chose to skip it. So this became a 9-step challenge instead of a 10-step challenge, but I did end up using a die cut, which was the wild card, but it wasn't in order, so you really can't count that. So I picked a couple other stencils. One of them has the word loved, and I've used masking tape to mask it down to just the word love. And then I masked this one with masking tape so that I didn't mess up, and put by airmail. So it says love by airmail. One thing that I'm kind of laughing about is that the lady looks like she's quite a bit older than the man. Those are the only pictures I had that were vintage pictures. But I'm guessing, for women back in the 1800s, it was a hard life. So she probably is just older looking because she's had a hard life. That's probably why. And she ends up getting tuberculosis and passing on anyway. So, whatever. Oh, this is all in my head, people. All in my head. Stuff is in my head all the time. It never stops. So the next step was to add something black or white. So I decided to bring in some more black. Just gives more balance. And also I made it heart-shaped so that it gave, it goes along with the idea of love, the hearts, but they're black hearts. So maybe that's not exactly love, but I liked the way it looked. And I just used black cardstock for that. I cut out a few of the hearts and then I punched a couple of the smaller ones because I didn't feel like cutting them out that small. So I used a small punch. Touch them with my Liquitex matte gel medium again with a palette knife like I have done with all the elements. The next step, use something unexpected. I didn't think you would expect a turquoise and gold bird with a crown on this page. And I had it left over from the other project. I was trying out different things when I did my live ATC this month, and that was a bird that I had made for that, and then ended up changing my idea. And it was teal, so it went with the teal spray that I had used, and I thought, okay, that's unexpected. And I was trying to do this page without much thought and relatively quickly because I did injure my back, and so I wanted to lay back down, but I needed to get it done, but I wanted to lay back down, so I did it fairly quickly. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to think outside the box, and make really creative decisions. I just went with the steps this time. So the last one, step 10, was to apply paint with a wipe or rag, and I just went around the edges and made a border around the page using my wet wipe and some more of that dark paint, which is what color? Payne's Gray. That's the same as I used for the stenciling. Then to finish up, I wanted to make my clock number stand out a little bit more, so I just picked up some Inca Gold, and I first started out with this copper color that's almost brown. It's shimmery, of course, but it's hard to see that on the video. And then I decided I'd go over that again with the old silver, which is actually a light gold color. I don't know why it's called old silver or whatever it's called, because it's not silver, it's gold. And I did add a little bit of highlights of those onto my little black hearts too to make them less stark. And then I wanted to beef up my words because where I had went over the texture paste, it soaked up the paint. It just like slurped it up like a sponge, and it started to become unreadable. So I used my fine black Posca pen to go over the letters. And then I also added in a few words around the page using the black Posca pen as well. And then I was pretty much done. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up, to leave me a comment so I know you were here. Share if you want to, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to turn on your notification bells. And that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.